Let's talk about boxing and unboxing. You can take a look at this in your Reference Types and More project within the Reference Types and More folder, and you can just see that we have a simple class here, class1.cs, and what we're doing is going to give you information about boxing and unboxing. Well, boxing is, for the most part, just a simple way to turn a value type into a reference type. And then unboxing is taking a reference type and turning it into a value type. So this can happen, and it can be necessary when you're passing these objects via methods. If you want to use one particular reference type over a value type, and you know about value types and reference types, which ones are going to be copied, which ones are going to be referred and not copied, and all those great things about the difference between the two. So it might become necessary to do that. So boxing is just changing the primitive type, value type, over to a reference type, this object here. So this is actually going to be a boxing. This is all we need to do to get this to box. Create an object, call it object integer, and then we're just going to give it the value of I, which is deriving from an object. It's also deriving from system.valueType. So we know that we can convert this to an object without any problems. With unboxing, you're going to actually cast from that object reference type into an integer. In this case, I2, a value type. So you can see that we just have to cast it as an integer because this object represents an integer. If we try to unbox this into a string, this isn't going to work. This is actually going to cause an error. So we can just debug this. And you notice that we get an exception. So we didn't handle the exception, so we can go back and do that. We'll explain handling exceptions in great detail later on. We'll just paste our exception handling routine here. Try and catch. We'll talk about that later. But for the most part, it's just an elegant way that we can actually handle errors that are going to pop up within our programs that aren't going to be syntax errors or warnings that are going to cause us not to compile. So that will compile, but it's a runtime error. So we can't do that. This is the exception that we can't cast that. It's an invalid cast that we're trying to do. We're trying to change it into something that it can't be changed into. And what we're doing behind the scenes is, in the boxing example, what we're doing is taking a value type, something that was on the stack, and we're copying it onto the managed heap. So it needs to be garbage collected after that. So we're changing that. So if you need to do something like that, that's how you would box. Unbox is doing the opposite. It's taking a reference type that is on the managed heap, and we're making a copy into or onto the stack so that this is going to drop out of use after we get done with this particular class or method. Very easy to do that, and there are more advanced ways of working with this, but this, for the most part, is how you would box and unbox. You might hear those concepts, so it could get a little confusing. That is, in a simple way, what boxing and unboxing are.